This episode is brought to you by Portland Distro. If you love underground music and movies, go to portlanddistro.com for licensed shirts, vinyl, CDs, and more. Go to portlanddistro.com. Plug in the discount code MikeHill666 for 15% off at portlanddistro.com. Hello, everyone. 2021, we're in the final throes of 2021. A year that I think most people thought was going to be better than 2020. And in some ways it was. And in some ways it was just a continuation of the kind of grimness of 2020. Wouldn't you agree with that, Ralph?
Well, misery always strikes every year, I guess. Now it's just like, yeah, it was a tough year. Hello everybody out there. We hope you're not as miserable as we sound right now, but yeah, this year was tough, and the last one was tough, but this one kind of felt tougher. But we're going to focus on the good stuff today. Yeah,
for sure, man. So actually, one of the cooler things is the return of live music. So hopefully that continues into 2022. And even though there have been some shutdowns and things like that in Europe and, some parts of the States, we're definitely hoping that we're moving into a better world when it comes to both mine and your passion, which is performing and writing music. So both Ultha and Ropes of Night played over the last couple months. So what was that like?
Crazy and awesome. Like crazy in the sense of being weird. I mean, it's just like, so Ultha played its final show for this year yesterday because we were supposed to play Eindhoven Metal Meeting with like a ton of great bands like My Dying Bride, Mugwa, and I don't know, like a gazillion other bands next week. But the Netherlands are completely shut down, so there's nothing happening anymore. We were supposed to go on tour with Niflheim and Bolzer, and that one's canceled too because from this very morning, midnight, all the clubs and bars can't host shows anymore. So our show with Ultha yesterday was the last proper live show that's going to happen for a longer time, and I guess it will be like this until maybe March next year.
Oh man, wow.
And when Ropes of Night played its first show, that was early September, was the first indoor show that people here in Cologne went to. And now Ultha show is the last indoor show they went to for a long while. The two Ropes of Night shows we played were awesome, and I'm super hungry to play more with them. But there weren't any like good offers, so we didn't like play. Hopefully next year. We've got like a bunch of shows listed already for next year. We are going to go on tour next year for a week with Photocrime.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Ryan Patterson, great.
Yeah, awesome. That would be awesome. And for Ultha, it's yeah, man, like we have like a lot of plans for next year, and the most important thing would be like in April there's this tour with Unruh, the band I just talked about in our Love Songs for the Unloved episode. They're good friends. They are going to release a new record next year, and I already heard it, and it will be my favorite black metal record of the next year. No contest there. We're going to release a new one. So I'm looking forward to the tour and hope this will go down. Because yesterday we played the annual Unholy Passion Fest here in Cologne. This time just two bands. It was just Sun Worship, our brothers from Berlin, and us. And it was like limited capacity, but it was like not seated. People were wearing masks out of respect. Everybody was vaccinated or recovered and had like a rapid test. So everybody was tested negative. And it was really cathartic. Like people really at the end of the show were crying and like about the emotion in the music, and hugs were shared. Like people told us how much this band means to them, and that's just awesome and makes me want to go out next year and play to all these fine souls. Yeah, so that's cool.
That's awesome, man. That's great. That's fucking amazing, man. And I would have like it was the event yesterday was at 3:30 in the afternoon here Eastern
Yeah.
Standard Time. So I would have watched it, but I was doing an interview for with the Adams family who made
Oh,
The Deeper You Dig. And
oh wow.
yeah,
Okay.
that's going to show up in coordinated with the release of their new film Hellbender, which
Hmm.
is going to premiere on Shudder, I think in January or February next year. And yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that. So otherwise, if I wasn't talking to them, I would have checked out that stream that you guys did. So that would have been awesome.
But it's yeah, it was it's cool. Like they have like there's this record store, the Underdog record store here. Friends of ours by now, like one of the best record stores around in North Rhine-Westphalia. And they always set up the show. And in the pandemic, like Hoffy, the main guy, he talked to the city and he got some funding. So they started Underdogs World, is where they did at first like streaming shows, like without an audience, then like tiny shows from the record store. Like with like bands playing acoustic and stuff like this, and he had like the first Ropes of Night show was being streamed through that, and now the Alpha show too, and it's cool because it's for free. But and that's a good thing. It will be on YouTube in its entirety within the next 6 weeks, so people can go back and watch it there.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, we'll post it on the Facebook page for Everything Went Black too.
Yes, sweet. All right, cool.
Yeah.
So how about you? Like you played one show, right?
Yes. Well, as you know, everyone else knows this too by now, since I did a whole episode on it about recovering from COVID. I as if things weren't bad enough for the last few months, I ended up getting sick. So we would have played two shows. The first being with Evoken, which was a makeup show from 2020, which we had to cancel when things first started popping off with shutdowns and quarantines and things. So that one we had to cancel. I did my 10-day quarantine and recovered. I felt physically not 100% physically as far as my energy levels go, but at least it was safe for me to go outside and I tested negative and all these things. So we played our first show with Nuclear Assault, Sub-Zero, and Sworn Enemy. Very diverse. Well, in some ways, very diverse. There was a lot of hardcore bands on the bill, which is kind of a new thing for us to play with.
Mm.
And it was a lot of fun, man. And for the first time in years, decades even, I actually got a little nervous before we played. And
Okay. Wow.
it wasn't about performing, though. It was about connecting my pedal board and stuff to the amp. And I don't know, this like really weird kind of like, I don't know. I never thought about that before. It was just such an automatic thing, just ingrained into my consciousness and how to connect things. But this time around, I was like, oh man, what if I something gets disconnected or I connected backwards or whatever, and I have to take like more
Mm.
time setting up, and then the whole show is going to go off schedule and everything. But
Yeah.
I was able to plug the right cables in the right way, and performance. Once I got past that, then all the nerves went away, and I was like, all right, well, I know what I'm doing. I can play and do what I got to
Yeah.
do. But my body was like shot afterwards, man. Like after we were done playing and we were loading out and heading back to the practice space, I was like in so much physical pain, man. I was like my feet hurt, my knees hurt, my hips. Like I was like fucking so sore, man. And then the next morning I
Yeah.
woke up, I felt like someone had beat me with a chain. It was pretty insane to feel that way.
Yeah, I had the same thing. Like when I woke up this morning, I felt like a million years old. It's like, oh my God, like how was this ever so hard? But like you said, like the technical aspect is like this could go wrong, but like once you get going, it's like riding a bike. You will just never unlearn it. But yeah, I was the same. Like we played, and I mean, when we play hard. Like we're not like a regular black metal band that like has like stands on stage with spread legs and is just like no movement at all. We're like I always think we look more like a grunge band or something that really like rocks out and I mean this in a positive way. Um, and it's just like it's always so much fun to play, but like in the second song, like I lifted up my guitar and I played this heavy fucking blues guitar, and like I'm like, oh, my shoulder, oh no, and then so like you move over and it's like, oh no, my neck, and then it's like it's almost like getting out of focus. I'm like, oh no, I have to focus. But like in the third song, my body was warmed up and it was working. But like once we were done and I was like talking to people and my body was cooling down, it felt like there was like three spots where the pain just like crept in. It was just like, oh no.
Yeah.
So this morning I'm like, oh no, please someone just like can someone please drag me into the bathtub or something?
Yeah. Yeah, and also I had just gotten over COVID, so my energy was like super
Oh
low,
yeah.
and I just was
Do you have
trying.
any?
I was trying to conserve, like throughout the day, because it was like a long show. Like the show started at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. There was like I don't know how many bands played, but it was like it wasn't called a festival, but it felt like a fest in some ways because there was all these bands on the bill, and so I was there all day long. But I was just trying to conserve my energy and be like, all right, you don't. These are like uncharted waters. You're just recovering. Don't like overextend your energy so you'll have some reserve left when you play. So normally I don't think about these kinds of things, you know what I mean? Because I like, I do all sorts of stuff and I stay in shape and I don't think about, gassing out when I play a live set. But this time around, it was like a whole new experience, man. And I got to say, like, I was still feeling some of the after effects of being sick, and that might have, contributed to the pain and sort of soreness and all that stuff too.
Yeah, that's something I always I wanted to ask you last time already. It's like, do you have any like symptoms that kept like staying with you, like loss of breath or like energy levels? Because like this long COVID shit, like a lot of people
Yeah.
have that.
Well, I was really concerned about that, but the only thing that's lingering is the sense of taste and smell, and not having
Okay.
that. But even that is like starting to come back. Like I can taste my coffee this morning, which is great. Like I'm cooking a
Mm.
chicken right now, and I can smell the chicken a little bit, and so that's starting to come back. Like before we started recording, I mentioned that I started doing Muay Thai again, and that's like the real test of like, okay,
Yeah.
am I, what's the deal? Because that's like a very physically demanding kind of thing, especially on your cardiovascular system. And I was able to successfully make it through an hour without, I mean, obviously I was a little bit out of shape, but nothing unusual. Like I jumped rope,
Yeah.
I hit pads, I like did the work on the bag and all the conditioning stuff, and I made it through, and I didn't feel any different, than like just the being a little bit out of shape from not being there for a few weeks. So that's positive.
Okay, cool. So hopefully next year more shows so we can get into shape again, like on stage wise. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing, man. Because it's like we practice for a couple hours, like and we're on our feet, but there's just something about the setting of being on stage, maybe the adrenaline and I thought that all the hours of practice that we spent over the last, year and a half, like would add up to something, but I guess it doesn't, like you just still that 45, 50-minute set is way more intense than like, 8 hours of practice. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. But it feels good and rewarding. And I mean, like I said, like the feedback yesterday, seeing people being into it and like raising their hands and like just like this like like you stop a song and I mean we always have interludes, but like you still hear the people yell, or it's just like this feeling of anticipation. So what's the next song going to be? And that's just like such an adrenaline rush, and that's the best part of playing live. It's just like seeing the people react to what you do.
Yeah, and also like for me personally, like I saw a lot of friends Saturday night at that show that we played, on the Saturday, a couple Saturdays ago, and I realized I hadn't seen some of these people in like 2 years, you know, and that was like pretty heavy. And even Mike Scandato, the guy that I do the Necromaniacs podcast with, we talk every week almost, but I hadn't actually seen him in person probably in about 2 years.
Wow. Okay. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts, right? So it's just a weird world to get used to again.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, I mean, here everything is shutting down again. They're again not tough enough to say like, okay, we will have a hard lockdown now. So people can like then in 3 weeks go celebrate Christmas with their family and then we just start the new year, like going all forward. No, everything is excuses again, and this has to shut down, but this one will stay open. So indoor shows of small clubs are not possible, but soccer games or soccer matches with like 10,000 people are still possible. And, you know, like museums shut down, but IKEA is open, and it's just like,
oh man,
it's so dumb. It's just so incredibly dumb. And we had the election this year. So everybody before that was like, oh no, we won't have like the vaccination law that you have to get vaccinated. And now, like, you know, the election is done. And they're of course like, oh yeah, we will enforce the law now. Everybody gets vaccinated. It's like this still won't do anything because people don't want to do it. It's just like, it's like, how can you not see where the problems in the system are? So it's frustrating. But like for me, it's like, okay, cool. We were able to play that one show now. I mean, the shows that are canceled now, that's okay. I can deal with that. I just hope like next year this tour comes to pass and then the festivals we have scheduled for summer. And I mean, once the new Ultha record is out, I guess there will be interest of like more people have us play. And I just hope that like early next year, we will be in a state that coming to the end of 2022, we will be in the same horse shit that we've been in for 2 years now.
Yeah, it's hard to predict, man, because there's so many weird factors connected to this thing, you know, and yeah, I don't think in the United States they're ever going to really lock things down again because of just there would be an uprising, you know. It's like like that is not something that would fly over here socially. I mean, people are having a hard enough time agreeing to get vaccinated over here, you know, and you know, talking about their quote unquote freedoms. Whenever I hear someone, I go off on this all the time. Whenever I hear the term freedoms, I immediately think you probably never read a book. You don't really have a grasp of the English language, and you most likely have voted for Donald Trump. So, yeah, you know, it's like some Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death, you know, against the crown kind of thing, which it should, a public health emergency shouldn't be that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. But yeah, I mean, I think we talked so much and so often about this idiocy of like these people, and we're not going to change them. I hope something will change in general. So there's just like a chance that at some point this whole thing can get more stable again. But now with the Omicron variant coming in, it's just like everybody's shit scared now again, and it's just like, I don't want this to go on. Like we need to get like the state where enough people are vaccinated so shit like this doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm hoping that anyone who doesn't agree with me or you has left the podcast at this point. You know, they don't listen anymore. So it's like, you know, I don't care about that. I mean, it's like, hey, you don't like what I'm saying, don't listen. Go listen to Joe Rogan or something, you know. And
for 3 hours, 3 fucking hours, man. Oh, it's like I tried it once for an episode with Chappelle, and then there was one with Ray Capo, and it's like I can't do it. 3 hours of Joe Rogan is just too much. It's not possible.
I used to really like Joe Rogan, but I think that he has no real authority to talk about some of the things he talks about. Yeah. And he has so much influence with people, and he's completely irresponsible with that influence, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, look, whatever your thoughts about getting vaccinated are, that's fine, you know? But if you're going to have trepidations about getting vaccinated because, it's like untested science or whatever, but you're going to go and use these like other treatments that are also untested and in some cases unproven, and embrace that as a solution to this, because Joe Rogan says that's the way to go, then you haven't really applied any sense of logic to your decision making. You're just being emotional about it. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah.
Well, enough idiots. Let us talk us about good things of this year.
Yeah, totally, man. There was a lot of great records, movies, very interesting shows, stuff like that. So, so what do you want to start with? We have top 5 records, top 5 movies, and top 5 shows.
Yeah, that's all of them were difficult because I think you could clearly see that people had time on their hands in 2020. I wonder why. Well, like my playlist of songs I liked is enormously long, so like that was the most difficult part. I like on my paper it says movies, then shows, and then music. Should we do it this way?
Sure, let's do that. And I have mine more or less arranged in a hierarchy of basically 1 through 5. So my first one being like the best, and the fifth one being the least best. So,
Okay, yeah, same here. I did the same thing too. And should we do 5, 5, 4, 4, 3, 3, and like
yeah,
then to the
let's
yeah?
do that. Yep.
All right, good. Um, I have a prediction for this one because I think I know what your favorite movie will be, but I
Okay.
won't say it. But like, um, but yeah, okay. So number 5 on my list is, I mean, we will talk about honorable mentions, and there were some close calls. But like, my fifth favorite movie of this year was Nicolas Cage in Pig.
Okay.
I enjoyed this movie. It was interesting. I just like from the get-go, I liked the atmosphere of the movie. At first I thought like, is this going to turn into a horror movie? And then it was just like a very emotional movie about something small. And I mean, it's kind of like the John Wick thing where he does everything because someone killed his dog, and it's like everything for his pig. But yeah, I mean, with Nicolas Cage, it's more or less a hit or miss by now. But like when he hits hard. And I mean, we all know Mandy, and there've been like some great movies, but I really enjoyed Pig.
Yeah, I saw that movie too. I liked it a lot, and I think regarding Nicolas Cage, if he's directed the right way, I think he's awesome, like in movies.
Yes.
But if you let him
Yeah.
just like do his thing, I think it gets a little tiring at times.
Yes. Okay, what do you have?
All right, so my number 5 is The Medium. It's a Thai Korean co-production. It's on Shutter right now, and it's a found footage film, which I generally do not enjoy those movies. However, there are a few that have made the grade with me, and this is one of them. And it's once again, I think Rennie from Starkweather recommended this movie to me, and I checked it out, and it's pretty awesome. It's about these shaman, well, I guess they're females. So are they shamans or priestesses? So anyway, there's these women that are mediums. I guess we'll refer to them as mediums,
Hmm.
and they're tied into an ancient religion, and there's some possession. There's a very frenetic ending, and there's a lot of impressionism in the film. There's like a lot of these like long scenes where you just kind of observe the characters, and the
Hmm.
movie's a little bit long. And obviously, it being a Thai Korean production, if you have a problem with subtitles, then definitely be wary of that because of the length of the film. But if you enjoy foreign films and you're not afraid of reading, I say go for it with The Medium.
That sounds great. It's one of, I mean, that's we will see like in my top 5. There's not a lot of horror, but I have like a list of about 50 movies, like most of them from Necromaniacs, and I just didn't come about to watching them. It's just like, as we will come to music, it's also not a whole lot of like metal on there. I don't know. It was just like not a year for me where I was in the mood to watch a lot of horror. but this definitely sounds great. I mean, I'm a big fan of like some of the found footage stuff. I'm still a defender of Blair Witch, and As Above, So Below is one of the like coolest horror films I've seen in the last years. So I will definitely check out The Medium. Sounds awesome.
What's your number four?
Number four is just came out, a small movie. It's pretty much just one person acting. It's called The Guilty with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh
Have you seen
yeah,
that?
I haven't, but it looks good. It's
Yeah, it's a remake of a Danish movie, and it's an interesting plot. And Jake Gyllenhaal really grew on me in the recent years. Like I wasn't a big fan of Donnie Darko when it came out, and I have never seen Brokeback Mountain, but with Prisoners, which is definitely among my top 20 movies ever by now. I love this movie. And then he had this run with Prisoners, Enemy, Southpaw, Nightcrawler, and that guy just kept delivering. And The Guilty is just basically him acting and being on a telephone. It's really intense. It's not a long movie, but like you're in for a ride, like a real thrill ride, and he can pull it off, and it's a great movie. Yeah.
I like Jake Gyllenhaal. I was a Donnie Darko fan when it came out, and yeah, I'm generally a fan of his.
Yeah, it's like he's just a cool. I love his sister too. She's also a great actress and um interesting family, definitely. Yeah. So The Guilty, everybody, please check this one out. I think it's on Netflix in America too. It's not. I think it's 80 minutes long, but it's worth your time. So what do you have on number four?
My number four is also not a horror film. It's The Humans, which is on. It's a Showtime production. Are you familiar with this? Have you seen this or heard about it?
No, not at all.
Well, it has an excellent cast. It's got Richard Jenkins, who
Okay.
you might remember him from 6 Feet Under.
Yeah.
Stephen Ewan, who played Glenn from The Walking Dead, and Amy Schumer, the comedian.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And essentially, it's funny that I said that it's not a horror film. However, it feels like a horror movie, even though it's just basically a creepy family drama. And yeah, really, it just has like 5 characters in it. It all takes place in an apartment. It feels like a film, but there's a lot of tropes in it that create tension like a horror film. And there's a lot of discussion about death and ideas about the Christian idea of the afterlife, and the Amy Schumer character is sick. She's worried about dying. The parents are getting older. There's a grandmother who is in and out of lucidity. That she has Alzheimer's disease and that sort of thing. And she says things, and there's definitely this otherworldly vibe to some of the stuff that the grandmother says, which ultimately it's just words, but it gives you this impression that there's a more of a depth to the things she's saying, and it leaves that open to interpretation. And yeah, it's just it almost feels like the film takes place in real time too, because it's really just about this family getting together in an apartment in downtown New York City in the financial district, and they have dinner and talk, and that's really what the whole movie is.
Wow. Okay. That sounds good. I mean, I like all these actors and actresses, so definitely on my list. So my number three is a movie called Wrath of Man.
Oh yeah.
Guy Ritchie movie, Jason Statham. Again, incredibly dumb Germans, because Wrath of Man seems to be something Germans can't say. So they didn't translate it into German. They just gave it the name Money Truck.
Wow. That's very literal,
Yeah.
I guess, because I saw this film as well.
Yeah. And it's just like, why the fuck Like, why not just have it? Like, I mean, they kept names like Olympus Has Fallen, and no one translated this, but they had to change Wrath of Man to, hey, let's going to watch Money Truck. Yeah, great, thanks. Um, no, Wrath of Man, great one. Jason Statham, I mean, he's kind of a tool most of the times, and he's like an entertaining co-star to The Rock or Stallone in some movies. But here, this is a real gritty, really realistic kind of movie. It's a vengeance action movie, and I just have like I'm just a sucker for good action movies. And like I mentioned in another episode we did, that the Sicario movies were like two of the most like most of the best action movies I've ever seen in recent years. And it has that kind of vibe. It's not funny, it's not comedic, it's just gritty and has like very good pictures, very good acting, very rough. I had a great time watching this.
Yeah, I actually saw this movie. I think Jeff actually recommended this to
Yeah,
me.
he
And
mentioned it. Yeah.
yeah, and I enjoyed it. I generally, it's funny. Like I agree with you to an extent about Jason Statham because he's never, as far as actor goes, I feel like he punches down. Like he's always in these like dumb action movies, and I
Yeah.
think that he could actually be a very good dramatic actor. I think he's got a lot of skill
Yeah.
as an actor, but he just never is in movies like that.
Don't you think he's kind of like the younger version of Bruce Willis? You
Well,
know?
I dislike
Be-
Bruce Willis, so I don't agree with that really.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now it's just like because Bruce Willis started out as this action star and then he started getting like more serious roles. And with some of them, it was surprising on how good he can act in a proper scenario. And I kind of have the feeling with him too. I mean, he always comes across as this goofy guy, and then it's like some people say like, "Oh yeah, he's the funny Vin Diesel," and I'm like, "Oh, that's an insult. Like no one needs to be Vin Diesel." Um, but yeah, in this one, I think he really shines in this one. And it was just like I watched it three times this year. It's just like because it was such a blast in the way it is made. And yeah, I really enjoyed that.
I did too, man. I like that movie, and it's like you said too. It's a very hard movie. You know, there's like not
Yeah.
there's no humor or anything associated with it.
Yeah. Okay. Number three, Mike. What do you have?
Censor, the
Ah, okay.
Prano Bailey Bond film, which we covered on Necromaniacs, that I thought was a fantastic entry into the horror genre for her. I mean, I believe this is her first film,
Mhm.
and yeah, it talks about the video nasty era in the UK. Censorship, obviously, and it blurs the boundary between what's real and what's imagined. And yeah, it's just a really well done film. And I there's some of the movies they talk about in the film that are not real movies. I'm like, man, they should make a movie about that. It's this typical '80s fare of slashers, and there's the discussion about how media affects the behavior of people and how censorship affects the behavior of people, and if you're exposing yourself to this stuff. It's like a very very clever exploration of censorship and extremity and all this sort of stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, you've seen that,
Okay.
right?
No, dude, like that's one of the movies like on my list that I need to see because like I listen to it and then sometimes with Necro I'm like, do I want to keep listening on because I don't like do they spoil or something?
Yeah,
I'm
we
like,
always
nah,
spoil it. Yeah,
yeah. It's just like I will still listen to it and yeah, it is on my list too. Like I have at least I think again my prediction, your favorite movie of the year. At least I think I have seen this one. So, but we'll see if I'm right with that one. So
actually,
yeah, I have censored.
I just got one question for you about Wrath of Man.
Yes.
Why couldn't they use the title Wrath of Man?
I think it's just because people wouldn't understand it or couldn't pronounce it. I don't know.
Oh,
It's
interesting.
it's uh it's there's like a bunch of these examples, and I think I mentioned one before, the movie Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah.
It's in German, like the German words for "Don't forget her."
Oh wow.
So it's like vergiss mein nicht. So no, don't forget me. That's it. That's like, okay, Germans definitely can't pronounce this, so it won't make any sense. So we'll just change the name of the movie. And sometimes it's so weird because it's not even like close to the original name or the German translation. And it's just like, yeah, money truck. And it's just like there's no German movie by that name where we could say like, okay, people know this as another movie. It's I don't know. It's just stupid.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Number two, no surprise here, James Bond, No Time to Die. I am a big, big fan of the Daniel Craig Bond movies. Mentioned this before. I think the five movies back to back, they have their flaws, yes. People can argue why was Rami Malek in his role in this movie? Why didn't they just shut it down with the Spectre storyline? And I mean, they had to finish it somewhere. I can understand the criticism. For me, I'm just a bit blinded because I love these movies so much. It's definitely like different from the canon of the other Bond movies, where between Connery and Roger Moore, there's kind of like a similarity in styles. I think the Daniel Craig Bonds are their own thing. And I mean, they're passing the torch to a new Bond, which hopefully will not be like this is the new James Bond. But I think the girl Naomi Harris, who plays, I know, no, she's Moneypenny, the other lady that has the 007 title. I think they will continue the franchise just without Daniel Craig, and I hope they name it something else. Otherwise, like Twitter will go ape shit, um, and nobody wants to have that. I love that movie. Seen it four times in the cinema. Yeah, number two.
I haven't. The only reason I haven't seen that yet is because I'm following your recommendation of watching the entire Bond series with Daniel Craig, and
Yes.
I just recently on iTunes they had a special where you can buy the entire all of the movies for like I don't know, it was like
Hmm.
25 bucks or something like that. So I actually have been watching them. I started with the first one and I think it's great. You know, I haven't worked my way up to the new one yet though.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the second one is always a bit flawed because that was the time of the writer's strike. And that's like to see like how old like when it started. I think the first like Casino Royale was 2006 or something.
Hmm.
So it's taken them a long time to make these movies and but especially with the third one, Skyfall is such an amazing movie. And yeah, like it's just I like it. It's my comic book mind, you know. I like it when storylines continue through like different novels, and it feels like with the whole Spectre storyline that it just continues. And for me, I wish Daniel Craig wouldn't have said like I'm done because they could have just said like okay, Spectre is over, and then they focus on another villain and give it another three or four movies. That I would have preferred that, but I respect it. It's a five now, five-part thing, and yeah, I'm happy with it. Great movie.
So my number two is a movie called The Feast, directed
Okay.
by Lee Haven Jones and written by Roger Williams, and it's a Welsh production. But it was produced in Wales, but the language that they're speaking, I think, is Swedish.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know. I mean, I'm a barbaric American. I don't I only
But
speak like one and a half languages. So
but Welsh is an extra language, right? That just sounds totally off because it's. I remember that on that tour we did, like the ill-fated Tombs Planks Euro tour
yeah,
with Black Horse.
yeah,
Uh, we played one show in Wales,
right.
and I didn't understand anybody. And then they tried to teach me like words that they use, and this sounds like a completely different language. So it might be I haven't seen the feast, but it might be that this just like Welsh, the actual language.
To me, it sounded like Swedish. But
Yeah,
once again, like I said, any
yeah,
Europeans out there, if you don't be too harsh on me. You know what I mean? You know, I'm from a factory town, so I don't I don't have much education. So
Always excuses, man.
yeah.
Yeah, tell me about it.
But the feast is about I guess I hate this term, but folk horror. I don't like that term
Hmm.
necessarily because it casts too wide of a net, and a
Mm,
lot of very contrived things get pulled into that net. But the feast is almost like a modern version of like an Arthur Machen story. It
okay.
has to do with like some elemental being that possesses a recently deceased woman, and she inserts herself into this gathering, a meal that is being hosted by these people looking for money to develop this land in Wales or Sweden or wherever the hell it takes place. And yeah, it's like a very slow moving, I would say a slow burn. There's a lot of dialogue that drives the storyline, and yeah, it's just really really well done. Very moody, and
Hmm.
then it gets very intense at the end.
Okay. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah,
I dig folk horror to some extent, but like, as you said, like it can be a lot of things. But the general idea, I think you know what you're talking. I think I know what you're talking about.
yeah.
So that sounds good. Yeah. Well, my number one, no surprise there, The Green Knight. Not fuck.
I was like shocked. I was like, damn, oh, no way.
Fuck The Green Knight. I want to make it clear here that it's a terrible movie. It's -2 on the scale. Like fuck The Green Knight, the dumbest man ever to live and grace a movie. Fuck this movie. Um, no, number one, easy this year, Dune.
Oh yeah,
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Never touched the books, so I have no idea. Saw the David Lynch movie. I dig that Sting is running around in speedos and he can pull it off. It's a gross movie, the old one, but the new one is just so stellar, and that's like the proper term for a sci-fi movie. The pictures, the sound, it's everything about this movie is just right. The pacing. I mean, they could have done it without Jason Momoa and like some of the bigger stars, but then again, that's I can take this. It's just I I don't know, man. I saw it in the cinema. It was super loud, and I mentioned this before on podcast. I was just like, my mind was literally blown by this movie, and yeah, I haven't had that feeling in a long time. So yeah, June, best movie of the year for me.
I haven't seen it yet because I know it's like a 3 hour epic, and
Yeah.
I want it's on my list. It's on the top of my list actually. I got to check that out before the end of the year. And if I'd seen it, it probably would be on this list because I've only heard great things about it.
Yeah, I have a bunch of these things where I say like, "Ah, damn, I wish I had time to see it beforehand." Then it would be my number, like in my top five, I'm sure. But it is what it is, and so yeah, Dune's my number one, and I'm really curious to see what you say when you see it. But I'm positive you will dig it too.
My number one is the Green Knight. No, real quick about the Green Knight. Have you read the Tolkien Green Knight?
Nope.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean,
Okay.
if you're into like all that King Arthur stuff,
Yeah.
yeah. My number one is Seder.
And I have 10 points now. I knew it.
That's funny, man. Yeah, I guess I'm very transparent. Probably one of the most black metal movies to come out in 2021.
Yeah.
Written and directed by Jordan Graham, who I interviewed on Necromaniacs, and was almost shocked to learn that none of my assumptions about him were correct. Really cool guy, very interesting. The movie itself is like just like this meditation on madness. the other world. It's just such a trippy movie, and to learn that, and I mean, and in some ways, it is about that veil between reality and some fantasy world, because a lot of the main character was actually his grandmother, and she was suffering from dementia, and it really was like going in and out of reality and the narrative of the story, which added this very intense sense of realism to the film. And yeah,
You know what? At least this one I have seen,
yeah,
and I absolutely agree. And it like I had to make up my mind between Satyr and Pig, but it's just like with Pig, I don't know. Like I had the feeling that it like spoke to me more because, like I said, this year was not my horror year, but Satyr is fucking awesome, and it's probably one of the only horror movies that came out this year that really got to me. Yeah.
yeah. I've watched it a few times, and I bought the digital copy, the digital version. At some point, I hope a Blu-ray comes out because I'm sure there'll be additional
Yeah.
material on it. And yeah, I watched it, all the lights out, and it's just very very atmospheric.
Yeah.
Jordan Graham did the score, and I learned in our interview that he doesn't know how to play any of the instruments that he used, and like it was like, but that makes it even cooler. It just has this very drony, ambient sort of texture to it that works perfectly with the film.
Yeah. That's it is just so atmospheric in the way it is being shot and everything. It's just yeah, it's something totally different than from like I mean there's again you could like push it into the folk horror in a niche like this, but it's just so different from all of that. Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, and it's not that I'm against that term, but I hate when they try to make these catch-all classifications for things,
Yeah.
because once they start doing that, I feel like it attracts people to that would not make a film like that to make a film,
Mm.
where it's like, oh, I'm going to make a it's like grunge. Like you had all these bands like Nirvana and like Screaming Trees and Mudhoney, and then some journalist out there called it grunge, and then all these like other like nincompoops out there. Oh, I'm going to start a grunge band. So it's like, oh, I'm going to do a folk horror film. And
Yeah.
I just recently saw a movie called Demigod, which
Mhm.
really screamed out to that trend of someone who doesn't really understand the material wanting to make a movie in that genre.
Mhm.
So, so yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. Cool. Honorable mentions?
Yes, there's a few, and none. I haven't seen any of these, and that's why they're honorable mentions. So
Okay.
the first one is Dune, because I haven't seen it, but I suspect that I would totally enjoy that.
Mhm.
Then there's Queen of Black Magic. I haven't seen that either. And there's a movie called My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It to. I
That's actually
haven't seen
yeah,
that either.
sorry.
I haven't seen that either.
Rotten to that's Rotten Tomatoes #1 horror movie of the
Really?
year.
Oh man.
Yeah. I just Googled like horror movies and like to see like if I missed out on something or like if I saw something and I forgot it. And like both these all these movies are on there except for Dune, which is not a horror film. But that is actually the first one I had like and this I have a tab all open now and yeah, I think like for me now that everything is like shut down, there's more time to watch movies again. And my like Christmas holidays, we have 2 weeks off. We'll be primarily watching movies I have missed out on. So yeah, I'll go for that.
I should check that out then, because that might make my top five for Necro. We'll see.
Okay. Um, my honorable mentions, Psycho Gorman.
Oh yeah.
I don't like horror comedy, but this one was awesome. It touched all the stuff. Like I have a soft spot for shit like trauma movies, but like it's not like a trauma movie because it's not trashy as this, but just like the costumes and I'm not a Peter Jackson horror guy. Like I hate Meet the Feebles and Brain Dead, but it's just like I always love like these costumes and Psycho Gorman was just like a trip, was a great ride. Um Nobody with Bob Odenkirk. Also great action movie. Didn't expect it to be as tight as it is. But if you want to have like a cool action movie double feature, watch Wrath of Man and then Nobody. Um, I like Judas and the Black Messiah. That was a good one. One of the best horror movies I've seen this year is unfortunately from 2020, which is the Super Deep, like a Russian horror movie. And a secret tip I have for people is a movie called The Card Counter.
Hmm.
Have you heard of that?
No.
It's presented by Scorsese. It's written by production by Paul Schrader, and it features Oscar Isaac. And it feels like a David Lynch movie without the supernatural. It's slow pace. It's about a guy who is a poker pro, and he's just like moving from casino to casino and like to try to like steal money from them like by like yeah counting cards. And he has like this network of weird people he meets who are all like trick thieves or stuff like that are like living in cheap motels and trying to steal some thousands from a casino by like cheating. And there's a interesting story about a boy and like a revenge story with that. And it's weird, man. It's a weird movie, but I came through that because of the soundtrack, and I will talk about the soundtrack in a bit. Spoiler alert.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So the card counter, yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Right on, man. So you want to move on to what's the next heading that we're moving on to?
The next one is also viewing pleasures, which will be shows.
Okay.
All right. You want to go first this time? Oh, wait, one more time. I have a prediction. I know what your number one will be.
You probably do because I've talked about it a bunch with you and everyone else, and so
Yeah.
yeah.
The bell is ready. The bell is ready.
Okay, so at the bottom of my list, my number five, and I accept all criticism for putting this in my top five, but it's season 10 of American Horror Story.
Okay.
It's this season it's a double feature. It has like two storylines, and one's the Red Tide, and the other one's called Death Valley. And it's got all your favorites, Evan Peters, Francis Conroy, Finn Whitrock, Sarah Paulson. They all come back just like every season. And it's the same way that I enjoy Buffy the Vampire Slayer. This American Horror Story business. You know what I mean? I mean, I was a big Buffy fan back in the day. American Horror Story is like very commercial horror, yet I do believe that it is really well done. And this season particularly I enjoyed because there's like this kind of vampire New England storyline that was in the Red Tide, and the Death Valley segment was very unique in that it was all black and white. It was shot like a 1950s like UFO sci-fi sort of thing, and
Mhm.
I thought the Death Valley part was really cool because it was like spoke to like the young, the childhood of that I had of watching all these old school like black and white 50s science fiction movies about like gigantic, giant ants and,
Mhm.
UFOs and, the day the earth stood still and it spoke
Yeah.
to that and I really enjoyed that.
Oh, that's cool. I don't know. I seen the first season, and I think I saw parts of the second, and I just gave up. I don't know why, but it never went back to see it again. And I guess we had this discussion about when we talked about like American Horror Story being the new metal for
Yeah.
like in horror, because a lot of kids in my school that I really think are uncool wear shirts like. Normal people scare me. American Horror Story. I'm like, oh, so it's a kids show now. But yeah,
And,
but
and that's
yeah,
what I'm saying, man. I'm not going to,
yeah,
push it on anybody and I'm not going to apologize for it, but I like it, man. I don't know. I look forward to it every year. I'm sorry, but
yeah.
that's just how I am.
No, dude, I have the same thing with like a bunch of shows, but I actually try to leave out new seasons of stuff that I already like or saw. So I try to make my top five stuff I haven't seen or that were like new seasons this year.
Hmm.
And actually, except for one, it's all stuff where there's only one season so far.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So my number five is actually something from 2020, but it just showed on HBO Spain. But HBO America got the rights to show it, and it started this year in 2021. So I count it as something that came out this year because I think if it hadn't been on the US HBO, I wouldn't have heard about it. It's a show called 30 Coins.
Hmm. Yep.
The It's probably the most like the buffet of stuff I like most that you can do in a horror show because it has Lovecraftian aspects to it. So I think there's I mean I saw Lovecraft Country and that was terrible. Because the monsters just saw like they just look terrible, and they have like some serious Lovecraftian creatures that look awesome, but then it's mixed with almost like a conspiracy theory about the Vatican and occult horror in it, manipulation, and it's got a great cast. It has the most beautiful woman I've ever seen on TV with Montaner, I think that's her name, Spanish actress. Unbelievable. Such a surprise. It's a bit trashy in between where you just see like, okay, it's a European production. Not like Dark, where in Dark it just looked perfect until the end. It has its ups and downs, but I overall really enjoyed 30 Coins. You have to watch it in Spanish with subtitles again. Um, Not a problem to me, but it might be to some. There's a dubbed version, but I wouldn't
No,
recommend this.
definitely
But
not.
yeah, 30 Coins.
Yeah, I love that too. It's actually one of my runner-ups. Actually,
Ah,
for all the reasons that you just you listed.
yeah, cool.
Yeah. Oh, so it's my turn. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry.
Um. Well, season two of War of the Worlds came out this year, but since it's only two seasons. It tells a story, and season one started in 2020. So I'm going to say both season one and two of the War of the
Hmm.
Worlds epics series. That's my number four, and that's got Gabriel. It's a French UK production. It's got the Gabriel Byrne is in it, and it was created by a guy named Howard Overman. And it's not just a retelling of the H.G. Wells War of the Worlds. It's very very loosely based on that, and
Mm.
it's just a completely different storyline. Really, it has to do with it came out in the very beginning of the pandemic, so it felt like a very post-apocalyptic kind of vibe. And yeah, the aliens are I don't know. There's like time. I'm not going to give too much of it away, but there's time travel. There's elements of it that remind me of Black Mirror. There's a very somber, dark vibe to the whole thing. Very depressing, heaviness to the whole series. And anyone can get killed in this series, and it's you're wondering which character is going to make it to the end of the episode, or if he's going to get killed, or he or she's going to get killed, and it just takes a lot of turns, twists and turns, and yeah, very enjoyable. Once again, if you're afraid of subtitles, uh, you know, maybe think twice about checking this out because part of it's in French, part of it's in English. So that there you go.
I started watching this too, but I think I just saw the first two episodes, and that's definitely on my list too. I just love the whole story of War of the Worlds, and I have to say, unapologetically, I like the Tom Cruise War of the Worlds movie. I know a lot of people shit on it. I like it, but this show definitely looks way better, so I'm stoked to like watch this in full.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the Tom Cruise one either. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Number four here, Loki.
Oh yeah.
One of the one of the best Disney things they have done. At first I was like, Okay, so first WandaVision, and I have to say, by that time I haven't had watched WandaVision. I have now, and if I'd seen it earlier, maybe it would have been my top five because that was amazing. But Loki was a whole different ball game. That's everything about this show ruled. The way it is done, the acting, the cast, the production values. Um, Incredible. Like I was really blown away by how cool it's the same feeling as watching Deadpool the first time. It's like this can happen like in the Disney universe, Disney Marvel universe. I'm happy that it's possible. Yeah, if you haven't like if you're a Marvel fan and you haven't seen Loki, please do yourselves a favor and watch these 10 episodes as soon as possible.
I'm gonna have some words about Loki as well, but I'll wait.
Okay.
I'll wait for
Okay.
that. Yeah. All right.
All right. So you're number three.
Brand new cherry flavor. It's on Netflix in the States. I don't know if it's in Europe though.
Yeah, it's a runner up with me. It
Okay.
is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Based on a novel by Todd Grimson, and I haven't checked that out yet, but it was recommended to me by Brandon Legion over at the Horror Wolf podcast, and because I originally I saw like the graphic for it, and I was like, I don't know, this is some like millennial like bullshit that I probably won't like, you know. But it turned out to be an amalgamation of a lot of different things, which it has like this almost like a neo noir like vibe to it.
Yeah.
It mostly takes place at night. It takes place in the early '90s, which is always cool because like the '90s was like for me like a very cool period of my life. Pretty decent soundtrack. Uh, there's witchcraft involved. There's supernatural elements. There's body horror.
Yeah.
Interesting characters. And once again, Frances Conroy's in this too. You know, if you guys are fans of 6 Feet Under, she's got a great appearance in it, and I really dug it. And really cool. Almost has a David Lynch vibe to it, almost like a there's overtones of David Lynch. Like I'm not saying that it's going to be exactly like Mulholland Drive or like Lost Highway or something like that, but there were moments in the movie that had that sort of flavor without being too much of a ripoff. You know what I mean?
Yes. It has this, it blends weird humor and surreal kind of scenes where you think it's almost corny or goofy, but then it twists it to like something disgusting or horrific, and it just does this fluently. And it is filmed in a very plastic, modern way. Um, it's great. It's definitely something unlike everything I've seen this year, and it is definitely one of the runner-ups, which is like on six or seven if we would have done a number 10. Yeah,
It's definitely. At some point I would like to read the novel. You know, I
yeah,
knowing that it was a novel. I'm interested to see what the differences and similarities are.
yeah. Okay, my number three. I will just say the name because I have the feeling we will talk about it a bit more, and it's Midnight Mass on uh, on Netflix. Outstanding show, really good, and it would have been my number one if there wouldn't have been two things that I liked more. But so it's the way it goes, I think. But yeah, I'll spare the comments because I want to leave you to it when we're at that when we're at that point.
Okay, all
So
right, fair enough.
let's hear your number two.
Number two is Chapel Wait, which was also on Epix, and excellent. It's got Adrian Brody in it, which that's not primarily why I like the film, even though I think he's a fine actor. But it turns out that it's a prequel to Salem's Lot, and it has it's a Stephen King related story, and it's a period piece. Takes place in New England. There's mention of the De Vermis Mysterious, which is a Necronomicon like ancient tome that Robert Bloch wrote about in one of his early short stories, Shambler in the Stars, Shambler from the Stars, and yeah, it's like the De Vermis Mysterious relates to the way they portray it in Chapelwaite, relates to vampirism and unleashing these dark forces on the world, and it's similar to the Necronomicon and the Lovecraftian pantheon of belief. And yeah, it's shot really well. It takes its time getting to where it's going. Like if you just go in there forgetting that it has anything to do with Salem's Lot, it just builds the characterization up. And it is based on a Stephen King story too. And then I didn't know that because obviously the title's different. But then second episode, I started realizing, oh, this is a similar story to Jerusalem's Lot, And then when it kicks in with the vampires, good looking vampires, by the way, a different take on vampirism than we're used to seeing, and really cool. And it has like a weird fiction, like sort of, feel to it as well.
You want to know what?
It's
my number one.
Really?
It's my number one. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Dude, I fucking love this show. Like, to save some times, I'll just probably do it now. Dude, it's so stellar. Like, the whole look of it. The vampires are the best looking vampires. Like, their leader, I won't spoil their names or anything. It's such an incredible take on vampires. And like I said, I compare it to The Little Vampire, the British Canadian gothy 80s children's vampire show, which made me I'm not a goth punk, but like my appreciation for goth punk comes from that. And when I watched this, I had the same feeling, just the way it looks, the dark atmosphere, it's really one of the best, books from, like, not the best books of Stephen King, but like the stuff that is made out of a Stephen King story. So, I don't know, man. I blasted through this season. I'm just like, this is incredible. And like when I was done, I just started from the top again. Yeah, it's really good. Adrian Brody delivers, and yeah, everything you said is right. People, if you haven't seen this, it is a great year for vampire stories.
Yeah.
And I was always a big fan of vampires, and with Midnight Mass and Chapelwaite, and there's a bunch of cool vampire shit out there. If you haven't seen Chapelwaite, please do so.
Yeah, I'll probably watch it again. It's and like I said, also it has like that weird fiction, like cosmic horror, like kind of vibe as well, which I always, I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Oh man, I lost track. Where we at? Like with your number one already, or is it your number two?
That was my number two.
Okay, so it's time for your number one, right?
Yeah, well then did you do your number two?
No, I didn't. No, because right, yeah. Oh, yeah. Dude, I'm losing track here.
You jumped ahead, man. All right.
Dude, so much info here. Oh my God. Okay, something completely out of the picture here for all of you thinking like Mike and I are these miserable people just sitting at home, like with black walls and curtains down and just like listening to like gruesome music and watching gruesome movies. My number two is something where the first season came out last year and the new season came out this year, and it won a lot of prizes, and I unapologetically love it. It's Ted Lasso.
Oh yeah, okay.
I know you're not a comedy guy, and it's not a comedy show in its sense. It's a drama. It is funny to a degree. And first, like Steven Sudeikis is. I watch Saturday Night Live every week when I can, and I didn't like the movies he did before. I liked him at Saturday Night Live. I'm not a big comedy guy, but this show has got something so real and so melancholic to it that it ticks all the boxes. For all of you out there who don't know about it, I don't know. I guess you haven't seen it, Mike, right?
No, but I actually, it was recommended to me, and it was described in a very similar way, and I am planning on watching it for sure.
It's about like Sudeikis being a football coach, and you don't know the reasons why, but he gets drafted to the UK of all places to start teaching a soccer team. And if you have ever been to the UK, I mean, I'm a German, and soccer here is like one big thing that people love, but it's nothing compared to the UK. And imagining like a redneck with a mustache who does dance moves for his team coming to the UK, knowing jack shit for about soccer and becoming a trainer with his co-trainer, and it's bound to get like rowdy, and but it's a very human show, and that's what it got to me. Like everybody was recommending it, like everybody was posting about it. I'm like, how the fuck can something be so popular? And then like also people from Aranzi Pazuzu, Walter of Roadburn, and all these people are like Ted Lasso, that's the shit. I'm like, really? It's like, okay, well, I guess I'll try it. Then I watched 3 shows and I had tears in my eyes at some point. I'm like, okay, wow, this is really touching and moving, and it's like it's that thing where it's really dark, but it has like this uplifting spirit to it where you're still like, okay, there's still hope. You can go on. Things can get better. Things can change. And especially in this year where everything went to pieces and everything was horrible, that was the right kind of show. And I can really, without a problem, say that I had like tears in my eyes several times watching this show. It's just really fucking good.
Well, yeah. I mean, hell, man, that's a shining review, man. I'm gonna have to check it out.
Yeah. Well, Mike, it's time.
So my number one is Midnight Mass.
Yes.
Where's the bell, man?
Oh, it's ready.
Oh, you jumped the gun on the bell too, man.
Oh, man.
All right, there we go. Okay.
Okay.
Midnight Mass, man. What a for me, it really hit a lot of spots for me too. I mean, it's Mike Flanagan, who has brought us a lot of Stephen King adaptions, and this is the most Stephen King-esque show that is actually not Stephen King.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. And he also brought us The Haunting of Hill House, The Haunting of Bly Manor, which I loved those two shows as well. And once again, he brings us his wife, Katie Siegel, to star as Erin Green in this series. And it's man, where to start with this? It's a vampire story. Maybe a lot of you out there have seen this already, but it's also a meditation on like religion, relationships with people, death, life, atheism, and it's just a very deep show. And a lot of people commented that they did not like, all the dialogue, and it was too talky, and it was like a lot of, that's what I like, actually. I like, there's this long periods of exposition. And I'm going to call to mind, like one thing that comes to mind is the priest is describing this scene where he's like searching through he's lost in the desert, and he comes upon this, it's almost like out of like a Robert E. Howard horror story, or like a Carl Edward Wagner horror story, or some of these like, sword and sorcery like fictions that I love, or dark fantasy where he finds like this, this ancient temple and, stuff like that. If you don't mind dialogue, definitely this is for you, but also there's some really great just horror scenes in it. They have an excellent vampire, and it's really unique.
Man.
Yeah.
I like when I listened to that episode of Necro about it. I think it was you did it with Mike, right?
Yeah, with Mike. Yeah.
I think he said that the vampire would make a great action figure.
Yeah.
And I agree. Like it looks so awesome. And man, like how can you criticize these dialogues? Because they were like every sentence was worth it. There was no like jibber jabber. It was focused, really good monologues. I mean, Hamish Linklater, like the actor of the father, he looks like Nick Cave in
Yeah,
a way.
totally. Yep.
And dude, I actually, you know what? I actually used a part of that show in a philosophy lesson in school.
Oh, okay.
Remember there's this PTA in school where Beth Keane, and I hate Beth Keane. Everybody hates Beth Keane. She's such a good villain. Um, where the sheriff Hassan makes this monologue of how Islam is not that different from Christianity and Judaism because they have the same origin and they believe the same things. And I mean, the three monotheistic religions is a part of philosophy in school that I teach. Just like where do they come from? Why is there so much beef between them? And I actually showed this part of the show because he summarized it so good. And that's the quality of the show that all the dialogues, they're like, it's not just knuckle dust. It's just really essential talking of great characters, great, well-written characters.
Yeah, I loved it, man. That's exactly it. There's like so much depth to the show, and I think it. I loved it. I thought it was awesome. It's
Yeah.
amazing. If you haven't seen it, definitely go see it for sure.
And hopefully, there's no second season.
I know,
I
right? They
I
would
want
ruin it. Yeah.
I want this to stay the way it is. I mean, they left it kind of open in the end. I don't want to spoiler it, but it's just like, no, please don't. And I just remember when I listened to that episode of Necro, and it's like, oh yeah, and Katie Seagal. I'm like, Katie Seagal? Like, how is Katie Seagal in this? It's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, it's like riding on a chopper with Al Bundy. It's like Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah.
No, definitely Midnight Mass, awesome. And also, did you like? Do you know the poster? They like the drawn poster of the show.
Oh yeah, that
It's,
poster's amazing. Yeah, totally.
that's something I would totally hang up in my room. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, runner-ups, dude. There's a bunch.
Wait, did you give
Like,
your number one? Yeah, you said
yeah, it's
Chapelwaite. Yeah, okay. All right.
Chapelwaite, right?
But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
okay. So we talked. We decided that we talked about Chapelwaite then. Okay.
Yeah, it's so there's nothing to add to this. I
Yeah.
just
All
like
right. Okay.
everything you said is being said. It was said. Yeah. Runner-ups. I'll start, okay?
Sure.
All right. There's a bunch. I had a lot of time watching shows. So, first off, gotta say, of course, Masters of the Universe Revelations, season 1 and 2, or like better, like part 1 and part 2. I'm an 80s kid. I grew up with He-Man toys. I always liked the franchise. I always hated it that they are not really connected. There was an attempt in 2000 with 2 seasons of a He-Man show, which was like kind of more in a narrative sense that it makes sense, like back to back. And this one, love the approach. I know a lot of people shat on it. I loved it. So Masters of the Universe. WandaVision, just watched it the other day. Amazing. Mayor of Easttown, limited show, also great. Heels, a show about
Mm.
wrestling, about pro wrestling that features CM Punk. Gotta love it. Wu-Tang, an American
Oh,
Saga.
okay.
Second season came out this year. Watched it this year. Both of them awesome. Um, right now, something I will always love, and to me, it's the funniest and most smart thing ever, is Curb Your Enthusiasm. I don't like if you don't like comedy, will still be up your alley. It's just like Larry David is just a social predator in the most positive sense. Like he's not a predator, he's a social assassin. And I love this. The last Narcos Mexico season came out. That was great. Godfather Harlem second season was great. Um, and one thing which is like on my number 6 position was Invincible.
Oh wow, I totally forgot about that. That was amazing. I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was expecting you to have that on your top
Oh
five
man.
because, yeah, that's a great superhero, dark superhero cartoon show. If you like The Boys, but in a bit different way, and as a cartoon, watch Amazon's Invincible.
Actually, didn't The Boys come out? The season 2 come out this past year?
Oh, that might
Dude,
be that was yeah.
I've
Well,
slept on both. I'm a failure, man. I failed on both of those counts. Wow.
yeah. There's like I said, like there were a lot of shows this year, and it just like this whole year is kind of becoming a blur at this point. So yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, The Boys season 2 must have been this year as well.
Yeah, 2020 and 2021 seem like the same period of 8 months, even though it's 2 years. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's like, okay, so we talked about a lot of like watching stuff, and for everybody out there, please, we have an Instagram now, and there's Facebook. We really would like to have your comments on what your favorite stuff were, so we can like deep dive stuff that we have maybe missed out on. Yeah,
Yeah, we're going to be very active on that Instagram account. So, yeah, definitely give us a follow. Check it out for sure. And,
yeah,
yeah, so I got a couple runner up here as well.
yeah,
30 coins was on my, no, that
yes.
was my number, almost made my top five. Almost.
Hmm.
Loki, once again, marveled the way they portrayed this was like almost like a cosmic horror story, really.
Yeah,
WandaVision, brilliant, brought me to tears at times. If watch it with somebody that you love, for sure.
yes.
I watched it alone in the dark because I don't have anyone that I love in my life right now. But
Sorry, I laugh at this point, but yeah, I
yeah,
understand that. Same here.
I haven't seen Squid Game, and I
Oh
know that a
yeah.
lot of people are talking about that, but I'm planning on watching it. I haven't seen The Foundation, which is the Isaac
Ah,
Asimov, which I suspect if I'd watched that, it would be on my top five, but I haven't seen it yet. And I'm undecided about Yellow Jackets, which is this series that's on Showtime right now. That's good, but it hasn't gotten into the meat of the story yet. So I'm not.
mm-mm.
They might completely fuck it up. So that's why I don't want to jump the gun and put it on my list here.
I downloaded some episodes, but I haven't watched it yet. Foundation, same thing. Haven't watched it yet, but I expect when I watch it that it will be something I really dig, and which is also I in this blur of time that we live in, I was thinking about if damn, Raised by Wolves, if this was this year, but it's a 2020 show, so high expectations for season 2 of that next year. But yeah, the foundation could be right up in this alley. Yeah,
Yeah, I had to do a double take on Raised by Wolves and confirm that it was last year because that's still one of my favorite shows.
yeah, that's so good. Yeah, so that's like already like a spoiler to next year. Like I hope for a new He-Man show. I hope for a new Dune, and I want Raised by Wolves 2. I don't want Midnight Mass 2. I don't want Chapel Way 2. I'm looking forward to new Ted Lasso. And when it comes to shows, there's still this rumor that they're producing a show called Raven, based on the book about Jim Jones.
Oh,
And yeah, do you have that book? Like this gigantic biography of Jim Jones and the People's Temple?
I don't have that now.
That's a great read.
You
It's it's
recommend it?
it's a long book. Yeah, it's really good, and they're going to make a show out of it. I
Oh, interesting.
don't know who's going to do it, but it's just such a good story and it's well written. So it focuses on where Jim Jones came from and how he got into that position. And I was always like the People's Temple thing is one of my favorite stories when it comes to this serial killer sect cult stuff of the 80s and 70s. And I just found a documentary from like 2 years ago about the women in the Jim Jones cult. It's like the tagline is, it's not just Jim Jones, the women helped it too. So like about the women that like spread out the poison and everything. So I'm going to watch that this weekend. Yeah.
I'll have to check out that book, man, for sure. It's been I
Yeah.
generally like those types of things.
Yeah. Okay. Let's take a deep breath and then go on to music, shall we?
Sounds good to me.
All right. That's also hard, man. Music, as I said, like a lot of people sat at home with their home recording studio and put out music in 2021 that they recorded in 2020. So got a ton of runner-ups, but I already tried to cut the meat from that. Um, but yeah, shall I start?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
All right. Number five in music for 2021 is a band called Silent and their record Modern Hate. It's a band from Mexicali. They're on 31G. It's like buddies of Justin Pearson. Um, it sounds like, do you know that band Heroes del Silencio?
No.
It's a Spanish, they had like the Spanish one-hit wonder in the 80s. They have like one of the coolest post-punk songs. They looked like The Mission or these kinds of bands, but like also like Fields of the Nephilim. So they've got this Spanish cowboy look
Oh,
going.
interesting.
And they have one album that is like mentioned. They have got a bunch of records, and I think they're a big name in Spain, but like no one here knows that just for that one song. It's pretty much that song is featured in what was that Veronica? It's an also a horror movie, a Spanish one where she gets like hunted by the devil or something.
Yeah, Veronica was cool. I didn't realize they had that was in the score though, the soundtrack rather.
Yeah, it's like she has the poster of because it plays in the 80s and she has the posters of Heroes del Silencio. And like this guy in Heroes del Silencio has got a really like he has got a very croony kind of voice. And the guy like in Silent he's oh man, what's his name? Jung Sing, that's his name, yeah. He's he kind of actually like looks like the father in Midnight Mass, just as a singer. So he's got the birthday party. They sound like birthday party played by a band from the 31G roster. So it's not a hardcore band. It's like it's post punk, but with heavy guitars,
Huh.
great melodies. It's harsh, and it's just the title "Modern Hate" was a reaction to the year 2020, and I listened to a podcast episode with Jung, and interesting guy. Should be a great live band. Never seen them live, but yeah, I feel like dark music that's also going into the heavier tones. Silent, Modern Hate.
I just wrote that down because it sounds. I wrote both of those bands down, and
Yeah,
yeah, that sounds cool. It sounds like I'd really enjoy that.
yeah. Will be a big playlist for this episode, I
Dude, I was
guess.
just
Yeah,
thinking about that this morning when I started gearing up for this. It's going to be an epic playlist for everyone out there.
yeah.
So my number five is Revelator by the band The Amenta, an Australian
Uh-huh.
band. Are you familiar with them?
No, never heard of them.
There's a whole crop of insanely great Australian bands that share Dave Haley as the drummer. And Dave Haley also plays in this band Psychroptic and, tons of bands. He's in a band called Werewolves. The Amenta don't sound like either one of those bands. And Dave Haley plays drums for them. And it's they're like I would classify them in the black metal genre, but they're very unique. It's and I'm not really a fan of Mike Patton, but there are things that some of the best of his work I feel may have been an influence on these guys. Yet there's no goofiness to their music. The music has a very somber like vibe to it, very intense emotional feel to it. And it's not typical black metal. I mean, I just put that as a tagline because I think that's partly they consider themselves adjacent to that genre. And yeah, it's like really well written songs, interesting vocals. The vocals cover a wide range of styles. Like there's harsh extreme vocals, there's clean singing, there's like almost like death rock style vocals on it. It's a very great record. It came out a few months ago.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. My number four, Robert Levin Bean. That's the gentleman who usually normally sings in a band called Black Rebel Motorcycle Club.
Oh yeah.
And he did the soundtrack for the movie The Card Counter.
Oh wow. Okay.
And I'm a fan of Black Rebel Motorcycle Club. They're definitely one of the coolest bands just from the look. Um, this guy has a great voice. I always loved it about this. And the soundtrack, the score for the Card Counter is 80% noise ambient, but like a very melancholic, like real score music. And we covered my love for score music before. But there are some songs that he did by himself. And this movie is about, like I mentioned before, about a guy who travels alone. So he has his style, but he has his modus operandi, and he's just a single guy walking between the ropes, between the people. And it's kind of a sad story because he has no one that actually is attached to him. He knows all these creepy people that like hang out in casinos, all these failed existences, and he's going all solo until he finds someone that he believes in. And the songs are like the actual pop songs he did or rock songs. They're like gloomy, melancholic songs for people that are alone a lot. And I, well, kind of fall in this category, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, and it has this whole score has like a longing to it. The songs are excellent. And yeah, man, I don't know. Like maybe at some point going back to it, this movie will rank higher, and I will really say like it's one of the best movies. But the score is great. So it's Robert Levin Bean, the Card Counter soundtrack. Yeah.
That's another thing I need to check out too. Definitely. So this is good for me
Mm.
too to hear this.
Yeah.
My number 4 is the new LP by a band called Black Ops, and the record is
Okay.
called The Heroic Dose, which for those of you out there who are familiar with psychedelic drugs, there's probably a reference to that. Black Ops are from Austin, Texas, and they are a hard to define band because they combine ambient noise, harsh noise, and noise rock, and I guess like Neurosis style metal, like that sort of thing, all together into this very intense blend of sounds. And yeah, that record just came out like a week ago, and I ordered the LP, which hasn't arrived yet, but you can check it out on like Spotify and Apple Music and all that stuff.
That's sounds like music you want to listen to under the Christmas tree with your parents.
After taking LSD or eating mushrooms, yes.
Well, if your parents from that time, maybe that's a good gift for Christmas. Wow, that sounds like an intense record, man.
Yeah, they have a bunch of other material out too, but this new one really is like kind of like the culmination of all the years that they've been a band, and I think it's one of the best releases to come out this year.
Okay, that's interesting. I'll put this on my list. That's like I already see like our playlist. This will be crazy different. Like all the tracks from this year, if we mix things together, interesting. Should be a good blend. But yeah, that's cool. I like this. I don't like playlists where it's like 20 times the same song.
Yeah, they're all the
Yeah.
same tempo. It's all like
Uh,
like just like 200 BPM the whole time. Yeah,
Hyper blasting for 2 hours straight.
yeah.
Okay, so number three. Now here we go. There's this year there are three black metal records that really grabbed my attention to a degree that I would say I really enjoy them. All three of them I will totally butcher their names now, but it's like two of them will be in my runner-ups, but this one is the only metal record that made it into my top three, and it definitely has the shittiest stuff to pronounce. So the band is called Fluistras. So, Mike, how do you spell Fluistras?
You got there's an F in there maybe. I don't know. Good question.
Yeah. No, it's Fluisterras. It's Dutch. I mean, people, don't worry. You don't have to try to write this down. I'll post it on our Instagram. Like I will take top five the pictures, so you have the links to the Bandcamp of all these bands. Um, Fluisterras is from the bubble of Turia and these other great Dutch black metal bands. The label is Heresis Novio Magi, and they're released through Eisenwald, a German label that is also excellent. And the record is called, okay, here we go. Gegriffen door de Geest der Zielkonstluking or something. I don't know. It's Flusteras are a weird band. It's pretty much two people. Our one guy is a multi-instrumentalist and one guy is singing. And the guy that is the multi-instrumentalist like writes all the stuff. And they have a bunch of records out 2 years ago, last year. They released a record called Bloom, which is to bloom, and it has like poppy flowers on the cover and looks all colorful. And to say this band sounds like Death Heaven wished they would sound like, it, so they are able to incorporate this shoegazy pop thing into black metal, but in a very different way. And the new album, it's only 3 songs, and it starts and it's very melodic. It's not harsh, so it's very great, great to digest black metal, but very interesting. Like these Dutch guys, the way they write riffs and melodies is just outstanding, and they are such an outstanding band. Um, and one thing I loved about this record, not only that it is great 3 songs, but I mean, you know it as well as I do that all the bands and all the labels now have like pre-order like 5 different colors. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
everything is
totally.
gatefold, and if you're on Nuclear Blast, you will have like 20 different colors because of all the people that they need to like make happy. And I think they kind of like said, fuck this. So what they did is all the records are black vinyl, but on the front cover is white and has like a picture of a tree in the middle. And what they did is there's 2 different versions where is a cutout for the picture, and the inner sleeve is either yellow or red.
Oh,
So the
okay.
limited edition is not the limited vinyl, but it's the limited inner sleeve. And I think that's cool because I've never seen something done like this. These Dutch guys are crazy, and I know most of them, and this is fantastic. It's definitely unlike all the black metal that came out this year. If you dig stuff like Blut aus Nord, Turia, Yellow Eyes, so the more trippy melodic black metal stuff that is not about aggressive feelings, then this would be something you dig. Yeah,
That sounds cool.
yeah.
It's definitely do not like Death Heaven. So
No, 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 that's not a please, please, people don't also not you, Mike, don't confuse it. Doesn't sound like Death Heaven,
okay.
but they wish they could do what these guys do to incorporate pop sensitivity in their writing of the music with the riffs into this black metal thing that is authentic and real black metal, and not like this children's birthday party that Death Heaven is doing.
Death Heaven probably wishes they didn't suck and also can play their instruments and play in time. Yeah, it's fucking music for mouth breathers, if you ask me. So, yeah.
Well, so I assume that the new Death Heaven record is not in your top five then.
No. But my number 2 record is, this is Ars Magna Umbrae. That's the name of the band, and the title of the LP is Thrown between Throne, not Thrown, but Throne, Throne, Throne Between Worlds. And
Okay.
yeah, it's I've been on this trip of like European black metal that's like very dark, with a lot of mood in it, and it's there's like
Mhm.
a lot of blasting and fast, guitar, fast drumming, but also tons of guitar layers and melodic guitar lines, and just like it's brutal, but also there's a lot of emotion involved too. And
Okay.
Yeah, definitely worth checking that out. That's like my number two of the year. It just came
Where are
out.
they?
I
Where are they from?
Where the hell are they from? That's a good question. I know they're European. You know, it's funny. I should have wrote that down while I was putting this list together.
We're focusing on the 10 million shows we watched in the last 2 years.
Yeah, but still in all, I should have wrote this down. Oh, they're Polish. Just I was gonna say Poland, but
Okay.
I didn't want to like be wrong. But yeah, they're from
Yeah.
Poland, and
Okay.
as you know, there's a ton of great Polish bands. You know, Mgła,
Yes.
is
Yeah.
one of them, and so they're part of that whole like Polish explosion of great bands.
Okay. But they're your number two. Did you
I'm
skip your
sorry,
number three?
they're my number three. I'm sorry about that.
Okay. All right. Good. It's like too many numbers.
Too many
I think,
numbers here. Yeah, yeah.
dude, it's like top five of movies and shows, and with two people, it's like I don't know if anybody's still listening to this, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
So we've got our number threes down. We're with number two now, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I mentioned this before. German post-punk band called Bleib Modern with the record Afraid to Leave is my number two. Bleib Modern translates to stay modern. Um, Very hip kids playing darkwave, but I didn't care a lot for their old stuff, but this record is excellent. They've got three guitars, very twangy guitars. I would say it has like the sound of a Roland S. Howard record or like Birthday Party, but rather melancholic and mid-tempo-ish. Saw them live a couple of weeks ago. Wasn't a big fan of them live, but the record holds up, and I played this a whole bunch. Um, yeah, man, if you like contemporary dark wave, very gloomy, very reduced, great vocals, great singing. Yeah, this is a great record for dancing alone in your room, I guess, or something. I don't know. But yeah, Bleib Modern, Afraid to Leave, number two for this year.
My number two is Ropes of Night. Impossible Space, dude. I know that you gave me $20 to say that, but no, dude, I was blown away by this record when you sent it over, man. And it's like I think to me, if it sounds like it could have come out like on a major label, if you ask me, man. I was like, this is like, and I'm not trying to, I'm using this just as a description, but it's like Interpol if they had better lyrics.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah,
don't know if
yeah.
that's offending anyone out there, but I'm personally a fan of Interpol's, but I've always cringed at the lyrics. And Ropes of
Oh,
Night takes, what I thought would be Interpol's strong points is their songwriting, like the actual songs without the lyrics, but put thoughtful lyrics together, and it's you can dance to it, you can hang out alone and listen to it, and stare into the void if you want. And it's applicable for all of those things. And I thought it was a incredibly wonderful record for 2021.
oh man, I'm blushing. Thanks so much, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's like you dig it that much. Yeah, I'm still really, really proud of this band and what we accomplished with like writing this record. And I mean, I still wish that I was the one singing, but
Yeah.
Tom's voice, he's such a good singer, and also like he found the right words and the right moods for the songs that I wrote. He totally got what I want, like, and it's just like, yeah, I think you can hear that there are four people that are very educated in music and that have played in bands for a long time, but like do something together for the first time. And like a lot of like reviews said, this sounds like an 80s record that came out now, but it doesn't sound like a new band, but like an old band that has just been around for so long. And that's the biggest compliment because I don't want it to sound like one of these modern dark wave bands.
Well, that's exactly I was going to bring that point up too, because like everyone in the last couple of years, it seems like everyone's like, oh, I have a post punk band, I have this band, I got that type, I'm in a metal band, but I want to do like this new wave band or something, and it just sounds like a lot of that stuff just sounds like, okay, we're going to put on this overcoat that's in this style, but
Mm.
it sounds like authentic with you guys, and it's not just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like use a different guitar setting and make something that sounds just like something else. It really is original and unique. And like I said, it just sounds that's a very good description of what it sounds like. An older band making a new album, even though you guys are new.
Cool. Thanks, man. Yeah, appreciate it. And yeah, I really, really hope that we can go out next year and play more. We're going to record a 7-inch. We've got 2 new songs, and I like the direction it's going. And I mean, knowing the way I operate now, that although we tracked the new record and it's going to the pressing plant soon, I have capacity, so we'll start writing new Ropes of Night stuff now. And so I guess by the end of next year, there will be a second record. Yeah.
Oh, it's great, man. I can't wait.
Dude, thank you so much. Um, my first one, and I never in a million years expected me to say this, and I'm pretty sure that you don't like it. It's the fuck, it's the fucking new Quicksand record, man. Distant
Oh, okay.
Populations. It's like Walter Schreifels, like he's one of the guys with the voice that either people love or they fucking hate it. And I can understand this, and I was a fan of Quicksand when they came out. I liked the first Rival Schools a lot. That helped me like in dark times, and I always dug it. Then Quicksand came back together and released a record that did nothing for me. But this one, at someone was like, okay, this is the most ugly artwork I will see all year because it just looks terrible. Uh, it looks like, yeah, your guy, like your Black Ops friends, like doing LSD and painting with like children's colors. And it's just like, wow. But then it's like, okay, I'm in the car driving back from work. It's like, I need something that is like up tempo and just like, yeah, let's try that new Quicksand. And you know what my thesis is? That Walter finally gave room to the guy who plays bass in Deftones. Um, I'm totally missing out the name right now, but he plays in Quicksand too.
Yeah,
And
Sergio.
some of,
Yeah.
yeah, right, Sergio, right. Some of these songs could be straight up Deftones songs without the new metal elements. So it has the same catchiness and melody of the guitars. And then I was like, okay, this is cool. So I'll play it again. And I kept on playing it back and back. And I like the lyrics. I like the words that he wrote. I like the harmonies. It's just a really, really good contemporary rock record. And yeah, so can't say it, believe it, but yeah, 2021. Quicksand is my number one.
Wow. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I'm not a fan of their music, but maybe I'll check it out just because you like it. So we'll give it a listen.
yeah.
Yeah. My number one is actually it's an EP. I wish it was an LP, but it's still I can't cut it any other way. This is my favorite record. One of my favorite record of the year is Galsveerd, The Humming Mountain.
Okay.
Gall, the former
Yeah,
vocalist of
yeah,
Gorgoroth.
yeah.
Continuing with the exploration of just darkness that he started with his first LP. This is like more of the same type of stuff where it's just like this somber. I mean, I don't know if he's ever listened to the Swans, but it's like it sounds
Yeah,
like that. It's in that vibe of like the Swans. Carl
yeah,
McCoy kind of music. I just can't stop listening to the fucking record. And there are a couple of more metallic songs on it too, but
yeah.
it's just one of those things that his voice when he's doing this style, it just sounds so bleak and has this like lonely quality to it. And yeah, I mean it's not, you know, traditional black metal, but it just in spirit, there's that black metal spirit, but it's just being expressed in a completely different way.
Yeah, I mean that's the impression I had from the first record they did. Yeah, and I didn't even know that this came out this year, so I
Yeah.
have to check this one out.
Yeah.
Gal is an interesting person. Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah. He's very, very a man of few words, but very
yeah,
interesting. Yes.
cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean there's a bunch of like these short, shorter formats that came out this year where I think like, man, this needs more. I need more of this, and that's why I have stuff like this in my runner-ups. But yeah, man, Gal and Quicksand. Look at us. we're so we're so close with so many things. But yeah, this I mean this just a weird year. But I'll check that Gal one out. I'm really curious. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, runner-ups.
Sure. I got him.
All right.
What
You want to start?
Yeah, I'm just gonna list two because I have a list of like 20 records actually, but I'm gonna list
Okay,
like
okay.
the two that I want to like really really focus on.
Yeah.
One is a record called Open Roads by a new band called Deeper Graves, which features Jeff Wilson from Knockmistium, and also Bruce Lamont, I believe, is the singer in this band, and it's yeah, like dark wave, like not dark wave necessarily, but like a death rock kind of thing, and yeah, it's just really worth checking it out. Check them out on Bandcamp, and then now this one, Cannibal Corpse's "Violence Unimagined" is, as far as death metal goes, like probably the best death metal record to come out this year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just it is like the name is so fitting for this record.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible how they go on and have been going on for so long and they still know what they do and it's still always on top.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My number one runner-up is actually, again, like you said, it's a short one. It's just two fucking songs, and it craves me to get more because they have an album out, an earlier one, but it doesn't do the trick for me as much as this. But Murder Bates, When the Sun Goes Down, It Goes Down Forever.
Yes, you turned me on to them. They're great. Yes.
Yeah. This song, like the title, like it's just 2 tracks of 8 minutes, but the title track, but with this name, it's just the soundtrack for this year. It feels like, I mean, right here now, it was a rainy, gloomy Saturday after the show yesterday. Christmas lights are out. I'm looking outside into the darkness right now. And it's just like when the sun goes down, it goes down forever. I really need more Murder Bait next year. And I hope that they play shows and I can see them at some point. Another runner-up, completely different again. There's the first posthumous released Prince record that came out this year, Born to Die.
Oh wow, okay, I wasn't aware
Yeah,
of that.
it's of course not like Prince's best work, but how could it? But it's still a fucking new Prince record, and it's great. If it's my driving home after a fucked up day of work, I need some positivity. Yeah, this guy always delivered. I gotta say, through the Everything Went Black podcast, I found this episode with an old buddy of yours, who has this new band called Rid of Me.
Oh yeah, okay.
And yeah, and this stuff, their EPs were great, and they just released a new record, and I haven't listened to it yet, so I'm curious to hear that. It has like a lot of traits that I'm into. Max Richter, composer, he released Exiles this year, which is a compilation, also great. Balmorea, The Wind, also it's ambient orchestra music, more like a film soundtrack. And then I would just want to give praise to 2 black metal records. The one is called a band called Skin Live, and again a title there, Danish Ind I Shoven Till and Tid or something. It's on that great label Nattetale. And this record it's only available on tape, and it's one of these labels that are like doing just limited stuff, and you can't get it on Bandcamp or something, and on Spotify or stuff. Bandcamp they have, and it sounds like if you would re-record Enslaved Frost, but with a more punk spirit. But it's totally crazy and fast as fuck and gloomy. That's awesome. And the other one that just came out, and I think if it came out a bit earlier, that it would have made my top five. And I know this is something you will really love. It's a Swiss black metal band called Tadrigada. And they released a record Vom Bruch bis zur Freiheit. This translated means from breaking until freedom,
Okay.
which is, and if I would compare them, I would say if Drutk sounds like they make music in the Polish forests, they are the Drutk of the Swiss mountains.
Oh wow, I'm a big fan of Drutk, definitely.
Yeah.
In general, I like that guy's most of his bands. You know, like Windswept and even Hate Forest. Even though it's not PC to like Hate Forest, I still think they're cool.
Yeah, and Tadrigada, there's this big scene. We talked about it also before in the podcast, like this Helvetic black metal, like the Swiss black metal. They've got a lot of great bands, and Tadrigada, they're like, they know these guys, but they don't hang out with the cool kids. And they just release these great records like every other year. And this new one, again, it has like a lot of interludes which are ambient, and it sounds like it has this atmospheric approach that Mugwa has or Drutk, but it really sounds like it's written on a snowy mountain in Switzerland. So, yeah, that's especially now for the cold time of the year. I think people will dig it, and I think you will dig it too.
I'm gonna check that out, man, for sure. Definitely send me links though, because I'm not gonna understand how to spell any of these names.
Yeah. Like I said beforehand, we have our playlist now. We will add all the stuff, more than just the records that we just mentioned, but from all our runner-ups. We will just make a great playlist for you guys. We will post on Instagram. There will be separate postings for top 5 movies of Mike with the film posters, top 5 shows for Mike and also for me. Also with the record, Bandcamp link. We are going all in with the Instagram, so you will find us there, and you will get the best updates there. And yeah, I think that wraps it up, man. It was a lot of stuff. I hope people didn't fall asleep.
Yeah, thanks for listening if you're still left at this point of the show. So yeah, and I hope everyone has a great holiday. And we'll talk to you next year, man.
Wait, true love don't wait, but it kills in silence. Wait, true hope don't wait, but it drowns in silence. show, waiting for the big show. The big show, waiting for the big show. Like the Count of Monte Cristo, I will dig in this